everybody, and welcome once again. We are here for our meditation, and I am very excited. I did a really quick little live earlier today to invite you guys to join me, and so now I'd really like to get into the meditation. So please do join me, and I will be so happy to share this meditation with you today. The purpose of this meditation is to begin to unpack the layers that we have that have been stored in the unconscious aspects of ourselves. And the reason why we're going to address those issues today is because this moment, this I guess you could say the solstice energy, where we are ending a phase and beginning another, is really triggering a lot of the unconscious aspects of ourselves and suppressed aspects of ourselves that we have been wanting to kind of ignore. And as I was saying earlier in the live, you know, a lot of these things that are kind of because of a mechanism of survival, we go into these mechanical kind of responses to things. So what we want to do is become aware of what those are. Just like a flashlight. When we shine a flashlight out on something, there's a dot of light. But as you lift the light higher and higher, the light begins to expand. And it's the same way as our body is working, our multidimensional body. When our vision is only here, focused on the physical, focused on the ground level, on the three-dimensional plane, then we can only interact by those immediate laws of action. And always it's going to be cause and effect. So cause and effect means something happens to me, I react to you. And the reaction of that is going to be from a place of survival or a place of preservation of the self, the identity, the ego, all of the aspects of ourselves that want to be preserved and saved. And those aspects of ourselves become very comfortable because we now have created a container, an illusion of a container of safety for ourselves. The problem with that is that it doesn't allow for evolution, and it doesn't allow for growth and expansion. And that majority of our life force is completely focused in maintaining this container. And this container is an illusion. It's not based in reality. The problem with having a container that's not based in seeing, and I want to be careful with using the word reality because, as you know, reality is kind of like consciousness, right? It really depends on our perspective, and our view of it can change the way we experience that reality. And consciousness is very much in that same way, that depending on the person interacting with it, it can change, it can edit, it can move the way you're experiencing that. So it's the same in how we are engaging in our everyday experience. When we put all of our focus into the mechanical responses that we're used to having, the problem is that we are draining the life force into those experiences without having the ability of broadening that perspective. And our multidimensional body is actually very much active on other dimensional planes. We are interacting everything from ghosts to spirits to entities to beings to extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings. All of those things are very much a part of our reality if we choose to acknowledge them as a part of our reality. But more than that, it's almost as if there is a creation aspect. We co-create those things. We begin to translate using the language of the mind, vibrational frequency, image, sound, and form, in order to begin to inform ourselves and create some kind of language and perspective and understanding on the things that we're perceiving from these different dimensional planes. And because the limited mind is so limited by its complete intoxication in hypnosis of the physical three-dimensional plane, it doesn't oftentimes we forget that we are capable of asking questions that transcend the perceptions of limitation of the physical. And so we need to push ourselves beyond that limitation, that fear, the changes that are coming into our reality, that are vasting in the near future, are meant to assist mankind in feeling comfortable in that constant removal of any kind of container so that that light can expand. And the expansion of light is not just something that is occurring on the physical level. It's not just something that has to function in order for the storyline of the matrix to be able to play itself out. But we need to begin to think much bigger than that, because as long as we are maintaining the cyclical patterns of the mechanical human expressions, all that we're doing is reinforcing old belief systems. We are literally living in the past, because everything that we know is based on everything that we've learned from childhood up until this moment. So if we continue to repeat those experiences over, the human ends up literally not moving anywhere. It just strengthens and strengthens the patterns in the genetic code, illnesses in that genetic lineage, destructive belief systems in that lineage. It continues to manifest these psychological limitations that are sent down the lineage into the next generation. And so we end up co-creating children. We bring children into this picture now. And the children now are taking on all of those programs. The children are taking in those limiting beliefs. The children are taking in the illness, because we still, as the next generation, have not learned how to end those parasitic cycles and those destructive counter-creative cycles that we participate in. Every single soul that embodies into a lineage that chooses not to become conscious, does not become aware, is basically reinforcing further those cyclical patterns until the organism begins to become aware that it's this flashlight that it can begin to expand up and make, grow into a much larger vortex of creation. We are vortices. I am a vortex, you're a vortex. The faster that this vortex of the human body is moving, the more energy that's moving through us, the more that we are aligning with nature. Nature is functioning at the same timeline and movement as the universe and the celestial bodies and the greater multiverse and the organisms that are moving at such mathematical and physical perfection to maintain balance. And nature has an intelligence that's far greater, far more intelligent, because it doesn't allow to be infused with limiting beliefs or untruths. All of our limitations are very limited perspectives, and they end up being untruths in our reality. Because although they could be temporary truths that result from a perspective, that falls short to the greater perspective that is available for you, that is a potential for experience for yourself as an organism. So, in other words, to break this down and to make it simple, every time that we are experiencing resistance, every time that we experience traumatic experiences, every time that we experience suffering, pain, limitation, we have to remember that in that moment, we are that flashlight that is basically glued to the floor. Okay, we're only looking at the immediate experience that's happening. We're not looking at it from above. And it's really important in the practice of mindfulness to begin to see ourselves as if we're looking at ourselves from outside, having the awareness 360 degrees of what we are doing. How are we participating? How are we showing up to that moment? Are we coming into that moment and accepting that we are completely helpless, we are incapable of change, we are incapable of accepting even ourselves as we are? A plant never questions its imperfections. If you look at a plant, for example, the leaf will not question if it's green enough. It will not question if it's growing enough or beautiful. These are just examples, but these kinds of questions are seated in doubts of its expression. And so what are the most parasitic thoughts for ourselves throughout our daily life are these limiting questions that we have. They are questions that dive into the past the fear of repeating pain, the fear of repeating suffering. And this is where our mind lives. Our mind lives in the past. And that past is informing the potential future, which is not even there. So we're constantly living in lies, from one lie to another. The lie that we're embodying the past. We're not. In this moment, we're completely not living the past. We have that as a memory, and it's a reference, and it's a lesson. But the problem is that we inform our present moment with those past experiences, and that limits what you're capable of creating. It limits what you're capable of embodying in your body. And the problem is that we don't see ourselves as an organism of light. We see ourselves as this temporary, as this physical body that is here to abide by certain parameters of success. And those parameters of success are an illusion in our everyday society. They are parameters of success that are created by society in order to create systems of control and compartmentalized thinking. And those compartmentalized systems were created yet by greater systems that are more self-serving as opposed to enhancing our awareness as an organism. Because the moment that the organism begins to pull away from all of that parasitic limiting belief system, the organism has the potential of moving way beyond matter. It has the ability to control matter, to be a master over matter, the matter of its body, by healing it, and therefore not depending on pharmaceuticals, not depending on things that cause illness, and now expanding into something that can produce, that can create. And what are we producing? Are we producing money in order to succeed and have houses and cars and success? No. That is the game of the system that is designed to make us believe that this is where our attention and life force should be directed. But in fact, what we're really creating is something far greater, because the organism that we are is intentional. We are creating with the words and the vibrations, the thoughts and the emotions that we're feeling on dimensional planes that we cannot see. And we are affecting and co-creating our life, and we're moving through these life experiences by constantly moving in and out of timelines, interacting with different organisms that are enhancing, that we have met in other lifetimes. The people that we meet every day are mirrors of ourselves, and much more than that, they are fragments of ourselves that we have met in other lifetimes, that we've engaged with. So there's agreement that for these relationships. So the more mindful and the more awareness we have that we are beyond just this physical body, the more we begin to understand how these laws of creation affect us. Because the greater movements of the equinox, the natural timelines of the earth, the stages of that we are moving through that are coming to an end, and the stages that commence on the earth naturally. These are actually the things that are infusing our creation. And if we listen, if we listen to this and we begin to tune into the body, we can begin to become very sensitive to the information that is available through these systems, these natural systems of co-creation, because they're the intention and the expression of these systems is in order to create longevity for the whole. It isn't a self-serving mechanism, much like the artificial systems that we are participating in now. So right now, we're moving into the next couple years in where, we're kind of at a point where that's somewhat of a choice that is made between going closer to the artificial, right, or breaking away into the natural. And nature is what we are. We are organic, and our consciousness is driving this organism by those laws of nature. So if we understand what those are, if we understand how to work with these greater laws of the universe, of the human organism, then this organism will thrive. It will be healthy. It will be abundant. It will be intuitive. It will be connected. It will be creative. But if we pull away into the artificial, all that is occurring is that we are codepending on something external to us, whether it's religion, whether it's deities, or a belief of something external to us. Don't confuse the manifestation and image of a divine essence with deities in which we tell ourselves have more power than us. So I want to be very clear with that. What I mean by religion and deities, anytime we give away our power to anything outside of us, the power that I'm talking about is your ability to create, your participation in the co-creation of this greater whole. We let that go and we say, I have no participation. I'm just moving through, and this God will give me something, or this other thing will provide me with this. And that oftentimes causes a lot of disconnect between what the cells of your body know. That the cells of your body are here to co-create actively. They are here to participate in that co-creation. And all of the organisms of your body have to work together to co-create. The emotions have to work together. The nervous system, the vibrational expression that you have in your body, the food that you're eating, the fuel that you're putting into this machine, this organic mechanism, system, multidimensional system, the thoughts that you're expressing. So just notice, are you causing yourself more harm, or are you expanding in that expression? So in this time, and especially when we have these big portals of energy that are opening up to us, we need to take a step back and take a look at really seriously, where is our energy moving into? Where are we depleting our life force with things that are taking away in our mind, and we are believing that we are allowing that to go? Because all of the great sages, all of the great masters, wise beings, and enlightened beings go through this exact same process of recognizing. They begin perhaps in ideas that everything is outside. But as they begin to go inside, they begin to unite with the universe. They recognize the universe within them. And through that recognition that you are that universe, begin to understand how you play a role in that co-creation and manifestation process. And this is like this creator that you become. You're an extension of the greater source. And what is the source? The source is infinite consciousness, experiencing itself through all potential experiences, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, whether it's experiencing separation, unity, love, or the lack of love. We are experiencing all of these aspects of ourselves, and all of them are part of the journey necessary for this organism in order to understand its greater whole. And every time that we sit in silence and observe these kinds of expressions and these experiences, the more kind we are to the body, the more compassionate we are to the body during these transitional points. But if we're not taking the time to sit down and check in with those parts of us, we're creating more unconscious resistance. And we are, in a sense, ignoring those little calls. The human body is such a magnificent, intelligent machine. I don't want to say machine, but it works so perfectly in coherence with all of its parts in order to create balance within the body. And it has all of the tools within you. You just need to understand how to use those tools. When you have this reaction to something that occurs outside of you that causes a little friction in your stomach or in your chest or just tightness anywhere in the body, if you have the mindfulness and the awareness to recognize that when it happens, you can really change the timelines that you're choosing. There are timelines of illness and self-destruction, and there are timelines of creation and manifestation. Your ability in the moment that you're triggered by anything to check in with your body is your power of choosing timelines. And the timelines that you're choosing, you might think are insignificant, but every timeline that you choose is anchoring vibrational frequency into the grid of the collective. So when you choose a destructive timeline, you are manifesting energetically an expression that is affecting the whole. And if you and I are constantly, all of us, stressed out or fearful or scared or worried, then we are anchoring that frequency into this organism and it's affecting the whole. And we pick up on other people's resistance. We pick up on other people's fear and anxiety, and we feel it too. And if we are, again, unconscious, we don't recognize that that emotion is not even ours. So it's a chain effect. We are an entire web, and we are an entire complete connection of one another. And every single expression affects the whole. And it affects the whole in the way that your emotions are being recorded in the muscle memory of your body. And that muscle memory through the nervous system, going down into the muscle memory, going down into the bones, into the cellular level of the body. And at the cellular level, there's the code of your DNA being written by those expressions. The ones that we reinforce over and over again, they become embedded in this organism and it becomes the code of your creation until you deprogram those things. And if you deprogram those things, you can begin to change that code, your overall vibrational signature. If your vibrational signature is constantly writing suffering, pain, fear, guilt, doubt, all of those emotions, then we are, again, vibrationally counter creating, because you cannot create from those vibrational frequencies. Full stop. You cannot create from those vibrational frequencies. So we need to understand that if we want to live healthy, if we want to manifest, if we want to be happy, because there's so much doubt between the purpose of man, and we think that we have to have a mission of some sort with some purpose. But in fact, the number one priority for the human organism is to create well-being within its organism, vitality, longevity, health. If you're not healthy, you're not in alignment with yourself, with your higher self. And a lot of people will hear that and they will say, how is that possible? I'm very connected to myself, but I am dealing with this. So there is work that has to be done. We have to dissolve the cyclical karmic programs that you agreed to hold on to and to embody and to express in your lifetime as illness, as stagnation, as depression, as lack, unworthiness, the lack of wealth, the lack of well-being. And every single participant that is in our family has also made that agreement. So there's nobody that we're dealing with that on the deepest level doesn't understand why they're there. But it takes a moment for them. It takes the love of the self to take a step back and meditate and begin to review themselves and their participation in their co-creation, to begin to identify those agreements to participate. If we participate in that suffering constantly, we're going to see more of that because we're in resonance with that. So in our genetic code, the genetic code of the entire, or I'm saying genetic, but from an organic organism, but it's a holographic storage system, because DNA is a holographic storage system. You are a holographic storage system. The Earth is a holographic storage system. Okay? All of the planets are holographic storage systems. And based on the information embedded in those storage systems, they have their own vibrational signature, which is why they are expressing and shifting and moving energies in the way that they are, affecting us in the way that we are. Because it is like we are a cell with all of the cells of the human body here, and those planets and those celestial bodies are their own nucleus. right? Their own cells, their own organisms with their own vibrational signature. So whatever they're vibrating at, and this is why we see certain races, certain ET races that come in, okay? They come in from these vibrational signatures and manifest into certain races. Those races are encoded in our DNA. We are a cocktail of DNA. Within our DNA, we have all of the spectrum of vibrational frequency. We have all the spectrum of vibrational races. So we are not separate from anything. Some people say, I definitely don't want to deal with any draconians. I don't want to deal with reptilians. I don't want to deal with these lower entities. Well, we are those things. And especially when we say we don't want to do it, that separation that they have just created in that moment means that there is a mirror within that unity, within that recognition of one another. So we have to begin to understand that there is no separation between ourselves and anything. As much as we have these beings within our existence, that's literally embedded within us. But what is going to help balance out the expressions of those things is the awareness. So this is again why we started with the I guess metaphor of the lamp, of the light, of a flashlight, right? So when you raise that flashlight, the light gets bigger and bigger. It's the awareness. The growing of that light is awareness. The more that we grow our light, the more we become comfortable with awareness of all of these aspects of ourselves, the light and the dark. This is where we can begin to actually begin to really kind of participate in this co-creation. But if you're not going to be looking at all these aspects, if you don't want to, if you're fearful, then you're going to stay down there in the darkness. And remember that the organism during this tiny little lifetime that we have, so tiny, so quickly. Look how quickly this year has gone. Look how quickly the other year has gone. We are moving at a faster rate collectively. That faster rate is beneficial to us because it means that we can jump up into the higher vibrational state and maintain that state if we do what we need to do for the organism to stay there. But it also means that if you choose to be in the lower vibrational state, that's magnified because the higher speed creates the contrast. And we really feel all of those knots of anger, of fear, of anxiety, of doubt in the body are felt within the entire vibrational system of the whole. So what you feel, what you think, what you embody is like a thread of vibrational frequency that is interconnected to all the threads of vibrational frequency. And again, it creates a ripple effect, each one of us. So our responsibility for ourselves, if we care about the collective, is actually very important in the collective. So let's get started with our work. Today, I want to really get into working with that shadow, working with that self, the part of us that doesn't want to become aware. That's the parts that we're going to work on today. Because this equinox time, this energy, this transitional point that we're at right now is the shedding of something, okay, and the beginning of something. And this is this endless cycle of life. But knowing when it's time to end certain cyclical patterns and begin new ones allows us the opportunity to embody presence and in the physical body, beginning to be a master of this organism at this time. And every time that we go through a seasonal change, if we're working more and more towards growing that light, you are only matching the natural movement of nature, of the natural movements of the universe. And that can only help your system grow. It can only help your system enhance, heal. It can literally, we are healing in more dimensions than just our average everyday life. All right, my love. So I want to thank you so much for joining me. Look at you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. So many of you met us. So good to see you. How do you deal when the ego always wants to compete all the time? What an interesting question, because I came across this with a session I did this morning. Meta, thank you for that question. When we are dealing with the ego wanting to compete again, why do we need the competition? The competition is again the need to be acknowledged, the need to be seen of the organism. So the organism is really desiring that acknowledgement that it knows what it's doing, that it's good at what it's doing, and it wants others to see that. So when I work with people with this thought, we go to the ego and we take a look at that ego. What does the ego look like? Usually it's this poor little child that is crumpled up, feeling completely unworthy, unacknowledged, disconnected. So we have to remind that little ego. We have to let it know and remember that the acknowledgement and ultimately what all humans are seeking through these many spectrum of expressions of guilt, shame, unworthiness, competitiveness, separation, all these spectrums of expressions, what we are seeking is, number one, the love. All of them, if you follow them to the root, will meet you back in love. Why do we compete? Because we want to feel better than the other person. But why? What does that give you when you feel better than the other person? Acknowledgement. Other people give me respect. Other people love me. Other people, finally listen to what I have to say, right? Or I finally get to feel good about myself. And only through that competition, through that win, can I feel good about myself. Without that, I have nothing. I have no I have no worth. So, and that's a lie. That's the organism rejecting its own consciousness, its own organism of light, and saying, I am not that. So this is the part that has to be brought to light, and it has to be reminded gently, yes, you are that. Take a step back, take a look at yourself as this organism, that you actually are that powerful creator of light. You are that generator of light, and you don't need anyone to tell you that. You don't need anyone to acknowledge that. Again, how many things in the universe conspired and came together and worked together at the cellular level, micro, macro, to produce your organism? Infinite things. And it's such a magical perfection that when we deny ourselves, it is very counter-creative. And when you get to the higher levels of this work, sometimes you laugh at yourself and you say, how can I have treated myself? How could I have thought that of myself? How could I have thought that being competitive was something that was nourishing for me? Right? So that's how it begins to kind of turn. And again, when you look at things like this, you begin to look at them from compassion. And that is the most expansive way to look at ourselves and others, because all of us are making ourselves a victim of our own denial of ourselves. We deny the self, we deny who we are, we don't want to see our dark, so it turns into this big manifestation of a bubble, and the bubble is the ego that does everything possible to preserve and protect that wound, the wound and the belief system, which is usually based in a lie. That lie that someone somewhere along the lineage believed that they were unworthy because the external told them that, because the external made them believe that. So all we're doing in healing is broadening the perspective. From the lie, we broaden the perspective into seeing something else. Okay, if it's not a lie, what else is possible? Okay, maybe I feel competitive because if I didn't have that win, I wouldn't be good enough at my career. But maybe I realized that I don't even want that career. What I really wanted was to do something else. And I didn't have the courage to step away from that comfort zone and do all these other amazing things. So now you begin to identify, sometimes we're not any of these things when you really connect with the true self. And this is something that I discovered in my journey. All of my egoic parts of me that were playing out in the world were all for love, to be acknowledged, to be accepted, to be needed, to be wanted. All of these ideas were a result of the belief that there was not enough. coming from this organism. And so when you begin to understand that, it reverses that. So thank you, Meta. I hope that answers the question. And, I believe I did a practice on that inner child work at an earlier challenge, I think in 2019. So maybe you can check that one out. But we will work a little bit on that today. Fiorella says, hi, I've been thinking and processing all we discussed yesterday. Oh, I'm so glad, Fiorella. That's so great. I can't wait to work with you. Danielle, Ola, Ebb, full moon and flow today. Awesome. Whatever we don't work, our children inherits it. We are here to breathe the programs and free the lineage both up where we are coming from ancestors and down. Our children are descendants. That's right. That's why having children should be a very big decision. But, oftentimes it's such an unconscious thing. But to bring in a soul, do you understand how powerful that is? To bring in a soul. You are not bringing in a soul. You're bringing in a complex organism that is interconnected to all dimensional planes with histories of our universe. And based on everything that you are and that you haven't done, is being infused into this organism. And the organism has an opportunity because we are moving through evolution, through ascension as a natural expression of our creation. That is coming here to change things. And how do things change? With fusion, right? And Dan Winter, I heard someone make a comment, has a wonderful explanation of the ascension, the physics of ascension, that is exactly what we experience in the healing body. I experience it through my meditation when I access a part that is suffering, and that fusion that is created, the moment that you transmute the suffering into love, you are changing chemically, emotionally, vibrationally, and energetically the body, and we begin to activate your DNA, the energetic body, and the expression. So there are so many things that are happening here. That right there, just that expansion will change what you bring into the world. So let's say after you do all this work, now you choose to bring a child, it will come in for a different reason. It'll readjust the game, the system, and what's being created by you and your whole. What if most people are actually organic portals and being used from those with higher knowledge more than we have? Yeah, most don't realize to actually look for what's down the future. That's such an interesting question, JP Political, and JP Official. Sorry, and you know what? That is a question that I have asked when we talk about the laws of free will, right? And at first, the idea that we are helpless and that we are nothing but puppets to a much greater energy and intelligence that is basically manipulating and moving organisms around could very much be a possibility. I mean, we look at the world that we're in today, and because we're in such hypnosis, we absolutely become puppets to a system. And we do everything that is being told to us until we wake up. The system tells us how to behave, how to act, how to dress, how to react to things. They create films on families and social interactions so that we are embedded with ideas of how social interactions should be played out. So much programming, and we play them out. We play them out unconsciously. We think that we are acting genuinely, but in fact, we are just repeating what has been fed into the collective system. Everything from archetypes to the roles that the feminine, masculine play, the father and mother and child that they play. All of those things, and remember, what is that film? The one about the fake world. If you guys remember the name, tell me. Oh, The Truman Show. The Truman Show, right? So it's like The Truman Show that we have this false reality, false roles, and we just abide by those. But the thing is that there are levels to experience, and we are just one fragment of infinite fragments of ourselves that are experiencing things simultaneously. This fragment that you are, that I am right now, we're choosing the human body in the human earth and this human experience. So other aspect of yourself could be on the Pleiades, and they could be experiencing a Pleiadian life in this other system of creation by other laws of physics and creation. And the interesting thing and the most beautiful thing about the human organism and what makes our genetic code so incredibly valuable since the origin and conception of life on this planet, that we have a cocktail of DNA, which means that we have access to our fragments through us, through the internal, by going within, by uncovering the layers of what we are truly. We begin to understand that we are the all. We are all these things. So when you begin to look at things like that and you understand the laws that govern beyond the limited matrix, you understand that there is no limitation to this organic system. There is no limitation. And this is why going into those superpowers, we create the superhuman that is intuitive, is telepathic, it is creative. This is how we begin to affect on another level. This is what we want to do. So thank you for that. That is a very important question that it takes some time to answer. Thank you so much, Alex, for humming here. Thank you so much. Pono, so good to see you. Xochitl, so good to see you. Yaji, so good to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing, Yaji. Anita, so good to see you. Kalem, so nice to have you. One love, Grandmaster. I booped you in the nose in VR. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Grandmaster. R2 says hello, everyone. So really, humans have some DNA of all or almost all other races. Do you get this from a download? That's a great question, Jay. How do I know that we are a cocktail of DNA? Well, how did I even come to question that is through my participation in the hybridization program. When I met those children, I knew that they were mine, but I questioned, how is it possible that I can recognize those children as myself when they don't even look human? They look like they're gray, they look like they are even reptilian, completely different creatures that I've never seen in my life before, right? That we, not even in our wildest imagination, we can come up with. And it's not something that is informed by sci-fi films, because I've never been a fan of those before. Now I see them differently, right? But I began to question, why humans? Why are humans being utilized in the hybridization program to begin? What makes us special? Is it me that's special, or are we all special? And that took me down a rabbit hole of beginning to understand what I was and following my own lineage through internal work, through all of the programs that were being deprogrammed from myself. I was deprogramming from my ancestral lineage, and it took me all the way back to the origin. It took me back to the countries from which my parents came from, and I began to look at those lineages and the relationships with those lineage and the origin of those cultures. The origins of cultures, the origin of language, because all of those things play a role. They are categorizations of vibrational frequency in a sense. And so when you go back down to that root, you begin to notice that we are all related. And we have an origin point here on Earth, which is, let's say, Mesopotamia. From that origin point came all of these genetic expressions that begin to expand into the human race that we are today. And so how did we end up with so many different races? How did we have that jump from the apes into mankind? So when we begin to deconstruct that from the genetic code, we begin to see that there is a gap there. Something interfered in that gap. And when we begin to notice that hundreds, millions of humans are experiencing the non-physical, they're recognizing themselves as multidimensional, they are aware of their ET aspects, they're having ET contact that runs in the family, ET contact in the hybridization program, government programs. There is something way more interesting going on. The interest in our genetic material is valuable, and DNA is the currency of the past, present, and future, because in the DNA is embedded the world's history. The amount of information that can be held in the genetic code, we know that today, that we can do a test and we can see where you come from. We can see all of your history, all the different countries that you've come from. But there's more information to our genetic code that our mainstream science isn't tuning into, or whether they know it or they're not tuning into that publicly. Within the dark DNA is actually a holographic function, a storage system with way more information that does not determine this physical hologram. It doesn't even address the systems that it's functioning under. So we are way more. And in that dark DNA, in that junk DNA, is encoded processes that we have yet to understand how they function. So we begin to undo the layers, and just through our own internal healing work, and this is not just something I am making up, not only have I gone through that organic process myself, but when I speak to other people that are working on that enlightened path, also come across this same information. And when you go back in history, also come across this similar understanding that we are a collection of way more than just the genetic gene. So it's very interesting, and we have to remember that our history has been skewed severely. If we really knew this supposed timeline of creation, our religion would not exist. Financial systems as they are would not exist. The politics as they are would not exist. Because it completely changes the way we see the world. So this is how we begin to understand that we are more than that. And I think that we have a lot of substantial proof within not just our historical timeline, but just going within and understanding how mankind heals, right? We have all of that information inside. Juan Garcia, thank you so much for that question. Grandmaster, I gave you just a kiss on your VR, flat screen, my spaceship, and made it full size. Thanks, VR. Much love to you. UV. Grandmaster UV. Juan Garcia says, lots of love for you, Jared. Thanks for sharing with us. Thank you so much for joining me. All right, my loves, let's get started with our practice. There's so many comments and I really want to answer them too. But I want to get into the practice, okay? I see your question. I do want to answer it. I will answer it. Let's get started. We're going to start by inhaling deeply. We're going to ground down to the center of the earth. Bringing ourselves fully in the body. Let's just bring our presence into the body. Becoming aware of our space. Go ahead and visualize a sphere around you and acknowledge everything that is within that sphere as a part of you. Everything that you are in control of. We're going to start with the root chakra. Go ahead and close that chakra. Go up to the sacral chakra. Go ahead and close that chakra. Just shrinking it down like the aperture of a camera, controlling that information that is there. Becoming aware. Going up to the solar plexus. Okay, notice the peace, notice the calm that comes over the body. We're deepening our meditation. This is advanced meditation. So you're going to go up to the heart. You're going to open the heart chakra front and back. Going up to the throat, open the throat chakra, front and back. You're going to go up to the third eye. Go ahead and open the throat, the third eye chakra, front and back. You're going to go up to your crown. We're going to activate the crown. Entering our color, illuminating, setting the intention that every area of our life is conscious, it's aware, it's intentional. What we're doing, what we're co-creating. Careers, families, relationships, nothing is unintentional. The friends that we have, the things that we speak, the body, the health. Every cell of the body becomes aware. And the message that we give those cells is health, vitality, co-creation. And what we came here to do, fill that in, whatever that is, whether it's just to exist, whether it's to create, whether it's to do, whether it's to be, fill that in. And finally, your spiritual journey, the higher levels, that we are intentionally aware of those higher levels. Very good. From the center of the earth, you're going to pull up a powerful green energy that comes up into the body, moving around the body, rotating, giant rotations, cleaning up our vortex. From the universe, bring down golden light. You're going to mix those two, green and gold, clearing the vortex. Okay? Everything that, just notice the body, wherever we have stagnation, wherever we have energy, just visualize clearing that out of the body. The neck, the back, all of the body, the organs. Okay? Sending all of it down to the center of the earth that we're releasing. Breathing deeply. Okay, you're going to take 80% of that, shoot it up your spine, coating the outside of your body now, clearing. Okay, so since we're working on beginnings and endings here and awareness, I want you to visualize that you are casting a net around your body with this green and gold energy. And we're just healing everything that is around us. Visualize your home filling with this energy. And just imagine that everything in the house that is heavy energy, everything that is stagnant, anywhere that we have put out heavy energy around us, clear the house of this energy. It's very important to live organized and in a clean space where energy can flow freely. So setting the intention that right now energetically we are cleaning that out. And this week I kindly advise you to see if you can work on that. Expanding your space, changing the vibration of your space, of your home. Okay. You're going to go back to your solar plexus, take that final 10%, and again, we are now going into the vortex of the body. So in that vortex, we're feeding this earth energy and cosmic energy into that vortex. So go ahead and feel that green and gold surrounding your entire body, rotating around the body, healing the body, penetrating into the pores, into the flesh, the muscles, the bones, down to the cellular level. Down to the cellular level. Again, releasing everything that no longer serves you. Down to the center of the earth, clearing it out. Bringing in this light. Okay? So I want you to review now that you're here, running energy, feeling that energy moving through your body. We're going to begin to tune in to the higher energies of the universe at this time. So go ahead and visualize tuning in to the higher energies. And I want you to read using your intuition at this time, because right now our intuition is activated. What is the message for you during this equinox, during this transition point? Take a look at that. Breathing deeply. And as you allow yourself to overview this message, what is the message that is in store? Go ahead and see if this message comes in words, sounds, shapes, vibrational frequencies, colors, and allow yourself to take in from your higher self what needs to be understood at this time. And all of us have different ways of receiving information. So just using your way of receiving, just listen for a moment. What does this organism need at this time in order to move forward? What is this equinox energy assisting us with at this time? Okay, so this will be the intention for your meditation. So now that you know the intention for your unique meditation, I want you to take yourself there to that part, the part of us that is needing the attention, needing the healing. Take yourself to that memory, to that moment, to that emotion. And I want you to sit with it. You're going to see this experience. It could be a feeling. Maybe you're letting go of something. Okay? Go to that thing that you're trying to let go of. Maybe you need to start something and you're afraid of starting. Go to that thing that you need to start. I want you to see yourself in that moment and tune into the emotions that charge that moment. Tune into yourself. Wherever you are being taken at this moment, observe yourself in that scenario where we experience resistance. And sit with the emotions that are there in that experience. A lot of us are shedding things. We are letting go of emotions that we've been feeling that have not been productive, events and experiences that have not been good for us, thoughts, emotions, habits. What is it that we're ready to change in our life so that we could finally embody our highest expression? What do we need? Go to that part of you that resists that change. You know what it is. And we're going to sit with that part of us. You're going to identify the emotion that takes over the body as you begin to observe, feel, explore this thought form. Notice what it triggers in the body physically. Notice what it triggers in the body emotionally. And it's the emotion that will help us understand. I want you to sit with that emotion. And at first, it's going to feel very uncomfortable. But after that little uncomfortable moment passes, it will give you more information. The information might be subtle, so I want you to pay close attention to the emotion that arises as you sit with that emotion. The question that we ask is, why do we feel this way? What's causing us to feel that way? And just listen. Your attention is going to be taken to another part of the body now that holds that information. So go to that part of the body and tune into the emotions that come up. Okay, and ask the question again, why do we feel that way? Okay, so you're going to get an answer. And because of the transition point that we're in right now in the world, in the universe at this time, your answers might take you back to past lives. They might take you back to your ancestral lineages. They might take you back to programs from childhood. I urge you to go as far as you can back. So take the furthest memory back, because it's, as you can see right now, this is something that is familiar to you. You've had that before. So take yourself back to that moment. Okay, what is it? What's the belief system that is thriving in that emotion, trapped in the body, that we keep reliving over and over again? It's a habit that we have in our lives that we can't seem to change or break. Listen to the emotions. What do they say? Okay. And in this moment, we ask that all lives that have experienced this trauma, that we can see them. So in front of you, you're going to see all the screens, and on that screen projected all of the lives that have experienced this trauma before. And we're going to look at them one by one. Just by acknowledging these lives, you are awakening fragments of yourself that are dormant. When we ascend and when we wake up, our ability to acknowledge our dormant shadows are what allow us to wake up, to change the vibrational frequency, to grow our light. And as you do that, you begin to feel a release in the pressure in the part of the body that was holding on to that information. Do you see how this is embedded in the hologram of your genetic code, of your physical body, of the nervous system? You are made of these thoughts. So as you begin to acknowledge all of this information that was produced for you, just observe without judgment. The deeper you go, the more still you will be. The longer you sit with these emotions, the more released and the more you will reintegrate in the body. The more you are deprogramming the memory of the body. Until you recognize that you don't need to feel those ways, that it's very much available to you, but you don't need to feel that way because it's just one option of many. Breathing deeply. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at all of the wounded aspects in all of these lives that you have projected in front of you. So all of yourselves that have experienced this trauma over and over again, I want you to see them in a crowd in front of you. Observe what they look like. What is it that they're missing? What do they believe in that moment that keeps them living in that suffering for always? What is it that they need to know in order to change that perspective? Help them change that perspective. Give them what they need in order to change and broaden the way that they look at these experiences, the way that they feel. Show them the opposite of this emotion. And as you do that, you will have to acknowledge the emotions that they feel. You're going to feel them in your body because you are a hologram of them and they are a hologram of you. You're going to begin to acknowledge the memories that are attached to that. Because again, we are tuning into a quantum field in which there is no beginning and no end. As you do this, you are unlocking higher dimensional aspects of yourself, because when you bring light to a shadow part of you, all of this that you're seeing, it was in the dark before. What a large part of your multidimensional body was in the dark. Notice that. So as you observe, as you acknowledge, as you see for the first time, you are bringing light to these parts of you. This is what it means to grow your light. These are the overlays of belief that begin to take over. They make up your identity. They make up what you're going to create next. They affect your children. They affect your life directly. Okay. Go ahead and see all of your fragments and begin to allow them to experience something that is the opposite of what they feel. Maybe they feel unworthy. Allow them to feel worth. Maybe they feel scared. Allow them to feel safe. Show them what it's like to feel safe. Maybe they feel lonely. Show them what it takes to feel connected. This is a profound healing that affects your health, because as you begin to dissolve these thought forms, the body is adjusting itself to a new vibrational frequency. The organs are adjusting, the cells are adjusting. All the things that were tightened up in a knot, resisting that suffering, living in that suffering, are now being acknowledged, and so therefore they can release. So feel your body expanding as each one of these fragments of yourself that you're healing begin to integrate a new understanding. New neural pathways are being connected and created. Okay. Now that you have given all these fragments of yourself something different, you're going to merge them all into one. And I want you to see yourself. This is a manifestation of the new you at this time. Take a look at yourself. This is the manifestation of everything that you need at this time in order to move forward, and everything you don't need. So if you still see that they need a little more healing, go ahead and allow them to understand what they need to change that. Breathing deeply. Okay. And almost as if this being is made out of threads of energy, the threads of energy are beginning to become unknotted, and the energy can flow through its system in a more powerful way. Breathing deeply. Okay. Notice how their light grows. Okay. So now, as you have healed this part of you, I want you to check in with your body. What we're going to address now is the ego. What part of your ego is afraid to make and accept this change now in order to move forward in your life? To not go back to those habits seated inside of that comfortable suffering that we were just in. Because when you got into this meditation, you thought you were great, right? But as you begin to go in there, you discover so many things about yourself. And you realize that there's better. So I want you to check in with your ego, and what part of you is afraid to accept this new self as a part of you still? I want you to visualize yourself going into your next day, let's say tomorrow, into your work, into your family, in those same situations that trigger that pain. How will you deal with that? What part of you is going to still feel hurt, triggered, not good enough, unworthy, all of those emotions? And I want you to grab that ego, take a look at it in front of you. What does it look like, this hurt part of you, this part that is damaged, hurt, injured is the word. Okay, go ahead and provide that part of you everything that you need. The ego, show it that it's safe. What it feels is it feels unsafe, because this new self is unknown. It has to break away from the old habits in order to be new, but it's afraid of the unknown. So show it what it's like to feel safe in the unknown. Show it that it's light, that it's connected to Source, that is one with all, that it's just the thought that it's separate when in fact it's connected to the whole. And when it recognizes that, all of a sudden it realizes it doesn't need to feel fearful or disconnected or scared. Okay? So go ahead, and now that you've healed that ego self, it feels stronger. You're going to merge those two aspects of yourself. Bring them into your body. This is you. Breathing deeply. Okay? So now let's work with our mirrors. Go ahead and see everyone from those stories and from your life, from those experiences, past lives, present lives. See all of those people that participated in those experiences. It could be this lifetime. Go ahead and see them in front of you in a crowd. And just observing them, notice, how are they similar to you? How do they feel this same lack and disconnect in order to affect you in the way that they did? Just notice. you'll discover that they actually feel the same way when you go down to the root of their expressions. Okay? So just notice, what is it that they need in order to come into their highest expression? Go ahead and check in. What do they need? All these people that cause us suffering, pain, anxiety, stress, fear, what do they need? Okay? Because remember, they are us, we are them. When we learn what they need, we learn what we need. Okay? So go ahead and visualize a white light coming down, providing them everything that they need. Everything that they need. They become one and they leave your space. We're going to take back our life force, breathing deeply, taking back everything that we expelled unconsciously comes back into the body. Allowing them to create a neutrality, right? Neutrality. Very good. So notice how you feel more integrated, more grounded, more complete in a sense. This is how true healing works. So we're going to go and we're going to start to work with the root chakra. Go ahead and open the root chakra back into a balance. Go up to the sacral chakra, open it back into a balanced state. Go up to the solar, open it up into a balanced state. In the heart, we're going to bring it back into a balance. The throat, bring it back into a balance. The third eye, bring it back into balance. Going up to the crown, let's send it up and activate the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th. And above you is a powerful white light of source. Go ahead and connect up into that white light. This is who you are. You are pure infinite consciousness. Go ahead and bring that light down into your body and integrate, seal the healing that you did. Remember that you are this light, that you are this all expansion. Okay, very good. You guys did amazing. Thank you so much for all of your beautiful comments and for joining me in doing this work. I can't even begin to tell you how much joy it brings me to see that you come to do the work. It really is something that is a blessing. And I really love you so much for doing that, because you are the collective. So let's see if I missed any questions here. Geraldine, do our kids pick us as parents for a reason? Yes, yes. And, you know, it's not just that the kids pick you, but we also pick them, of course, right? But the interesting thing about how these souls organize somehow within Earth, they are attracted by vibrational frequency. They come in where the soul is ready to expand. They match the lineage, the ancestral lineage that's a match to that resonance, right? The lineage that will help them expand that part, and your lineage that's ready to expand in that way. So it's so incredible. It's like this organism, right? But again, the image that I get is the unity, the feminine and masculine. When it unites, think about that mitosis that begins to create the cells that begin to create. So everything is kind of creating in that sense. And it's the same way that when these two energies come together, they create an entire life and continue these cycles of repetitive patterns that we're experiencing. Thank you for that question. Compassion and patience for it to grow is the key. So amazing and simple. Yeah. Take the higher perspective. Thank you for that. Avon says nobody wants to be homeless and hungry. Nobody wants to be at the mercy of institutions. That's why people compete. Failure in this life can be mercilessly harsh. So we plan our week. We grasp. Yes, but in fact, you need to remember also, and this is just a thought that, we do live in this very physical experience, and the physical cannot exist without contrast. So, in fact, um, you know, Source is experiencing itself as all potential experiences. So, even the experience of this person experiencing hunger plays a role in the collective. Okay. And our perspective, we need to advance our perspective beyond the human conditional perspectives in order to find solutions that affect globally. Because right now we are kind of like infants, not just in our bodies, but in creating societies that are collectively nourishing. If we don't know what love is within ourselves, if we don't understand what it means to expand, to co-create, and to work by the laws of the universe, even if you halfway wake up, you won't have the vision and understanding of what will assist the collective. That's why it's so important for those of you that are interested in waking up, that we go into that collective consciousness as quick as possible, as soon as we can, so that we can understand what it really means. Because every organism plays a role in maintaining the balance of the collective, and nothing is just by chance. So that's where we stop infusing feelings of guilt and anger and frustration into things that don't require our anger and frustration. That energy has to be focused on the enhancement of the organism so that we can reach our highest potential and begin to move on a much higher level these things. Because these things that are happening in our society are a product of way higher and seemingly more controlling systems. They're controlling because they've embedded into the foundations of our creation. And so we have to somehow pull away, reset that, and that's kind of what's happening now in the world. Okay. Do you think teachings like these will be common in the future? I don't know. I don't know. Or will mainstream still consider them pseudoscience? Something I don't understand is that humanity always depends on mainstream to give us answers. Why again? And this is that hive mind that I talked about earlier. Like, we always want the external to give us validation, confirmation, acknowledgement that what we know is true. We need to get away from that. That's why we are where we are today, because we keep giving away our power to something external. And this is why I'm such a huge advocate of understanding free will and the sovereignty of governing this body, governing what goes in, what happens, what it does in this world. That is really important, because we don't need to wait for anyone to do things. We need to be the active movers and shakers and creators that begin to implement into society by example what is healthy for this organism. If we have longevity, if we have health, if we have bliss, joy, and we're vibrating, we become an incredible vortex of creation, and it shows in everything that we're doing. So more of us need to do that. And that's it. If more of us do that, everything outside changes, because everything outside is a product of us, not the other way around. And we need to remember that. We need to take responsibility for that once and for all. This is the time to really, really do that. Larissa says, hello from NC. Grateful. Thank you so much for being here. Fascinating, very helpful. Thank you. Magic Salia, Siadi. One love. So good to see you. What's going to happen to the people who got, and if no, okay. So meta mindset Your question is really important. Here's what I'm going to say. If you're in the chat and you read his question, go ahead and read the question. I'm not going to say it. It has to do with genetic modification. And what I see is, look, there was this scientist that created these twin babies that were genetically modified a couple of years ago. And it created, through CRISPR, the ability to cut out from the genetics the AIDS illness, because the father had AIDS and it would be passed down to these two little twin babies. So what they did was that they genetically modified the embryos, and now the embryos have grown without that as a part of their genetic. Okay? So these kinds of editing, it created a major uproar, because it was like all of the scientific community and everything else. That doctor and scientist went to jail in China, supposedly. But as a result of that, they said it was completely unethical. Okay, so this is the beginning of the future. Genetic modification of our genetic code through CRISPR. Anybody can get CRISPR. CRISPR is, you can buy one for $600 on eBay. It genetically cuts your genes, okay? And it edits the code. So why I want to put your attention on that, because everything that we ingest is also, in a sense, changing us, right? So things like that question are also doing that. But the problem is not, and it is clearly happening right now in society, but the problem is going to be down the road, because again, remember that nature is a balance. And when you take something out of that delicately balanced organism, there is a chain reaction, and the human organism is intelligent enough to support the changes to a certain level. But we have yet to understand what the results are going to be going down the road. And so the question that I have is, since we don't understand that, what is going to be the effect down the road? Is it going to be an effect on the immune system? Is it going to be an effect on many other things? So this is where my questions lie. And I think that we should focus on that, because the next generation is actually the ones that are going to be the ones that are going to hold on to those effects more than us. Do we need to worry about that? You tell me. I think that this is something that each one of us has to go inside and think about and decide how they want to perceive and do that, how they want to understand it. And I think everyone has free choice. Your body, yourself, you choose what's right for you. There's no right and wrong. That's all I have to say about that. But yeah. Thank you so much, Plim Soul. Thank you, Lisa. I was so angry when I heard the term junk DNA. There's no such thing. That is true. Even says, who was Jesus Christ? Oh, that's a big one. We can talk about that some other time. Even says, yeah, she has a very calming voice. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Really love you guys so much, and I hope you have an incredible day. Thank you, Geraldine. My liver just stopped hurting. Yes, I love that. That happens every day in my work, and this is what I'm here to do. So let's heal the body, right? RR2 says, I think programming wants users to think we are the body, but we are not the body. Work on lifting the veil. We will get there. Yes, sir. That's right. Caleb says, I'm always amazed how much shifts every meditation brought me to tears. So grateful for your assistance. Wow, Caleb. So amazing. Beautiful to hear that. Thank you. Getaway Suns Facts. Love you so much. Have an amazing week. Please join me at wisdomcon this weekend. We have an amazing lineup. Register. It's free, and it'll be on many different portals. But if you sign up through the website, you get to join us in the Zoom room, which is really great. So join us in there. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.